I'm here outside Westminster where a rally's taking place, obviously for Brexit. It's run by an organisation called Unity. I thought I'd come along, see what's going on. There's quite an interesting cross-section of society here. And what's interesting is that today, Theresa May is due to make a big announcement. By the time this goes out, the announcement will be there and I will have a report on it. So let's wait and see what happens there, and let's go and have a chat with some of the people here and see what's going on. So I'm outside Westminster today on the first PMQ since the summer recess. The politicians have finally come back off holiday. And today I'm with David Clues, who's the organiser of Unity. So David, can you tell me what's happening here and maybe a bit of background on Unity?
Well, Jack, what we've got is we've got grassroots people out. We've got people who have just had enough of Theresa May and the overall Brexit betrayal. The country's in an absolute mess just now. Not only Brexit, so much, so a lot of angry people. So today's, with our second demo we've done, we're looking to do a lot more. We're just a grassroots movement that's just sick and tired, and we just want to do what we can because the political parties aren't listening. And Unity was founded 9 months ago, and we want to change things in the UK by mobilising people and getting people talking. A bit like in America, you know, grassroots activism is much bigger in America than it is in the UK, and people are so sick and tired of the two-party system and the inability to break through that two-party system. So we need to just do what we can to change things.
People over there protesting, they say, we didn't vote for a no deal, so we need a second referendum. Did you vote for no deal?
What I voted for was a clean break between the United Kingdom and the EU.
Well, I didn't vote for what she's proposing now. That's a fact. And if it's one or the other, I'd rather have the no deal.
No deal.
What they've actually done is the opposite. They have gone out of their way to make life really difficult for the UK trying to leave the EU, on the basis that if they make it so difficult that the British people just throw their hands up in resignation, that will dissuade a lot of other European countries from going down the same route.
I voted to leave, as did many people, knowing that there may be some issues to create a better country. This idea that you require constant economic growth is a fallacy. Britain's in such a mess in terms of crime, in terms of mass immigration. People aren't actually prepared to see things go back a bit to take 10 steps forward. Yeah. And that's how most people feel.
I would have voted Brexit. Being an American, I think it's all about independence. So I'd love to break away from the EU, definitely. At the time, I definitely would have voted for Brexit.
So would you agree that people voted in the referendum for more than just leaving the European Union, perhaps a rejection of politics?
Yeah, 100%. You've got to remember, if it wasn't for working class people in parts of the UK that aren't Tories, you know, that's the problem, is this entire debate is now about the Tory party. It was in predominantly Labour, Leave areas, that the huge votes, people hadn't voted for years, came out and voted because they wanted change.
So when she says there won't be another referendum, do you believe her?
No, I don't actually. No.
Well, hopefully there's not going to be a second referendum. But if there is a second referendum, I will go out, I will vote again. And I think if a second referendum happens, I think it'll be 75% will vote leave.
I'm not sure there should be another referendum on whether we leave. But I think maybe there should be a vote on maybe different options of how we leave, definitely.
I think people would be very angry that they're having to vote again for something they voted for before. If at the last general election, what if we'd have just said, well, we're not happy Theresa May won, we'll just have another Brexit? There would have been anarchy on the streets. British people are quite small c conservative. I don't see there being anarchy or anything like that in the streets, but there will be a lot of angry people, and I think we would be able to mobilise much bigger numbers and get our points across.
It may not happen in the way that we had originally hoped it would happen, and it looks to me like the people who are behind making the decisions at the moment are trying to do it in such a way that it'll be such a fudge that the British people will say, oh, this is just too much trouble, maybe we'll forget about it.
I think we've all been left in the lurch. I think a lot of people who have voted for Brexit that wanted a change are being hugely let down. So they were let down, they voted to leave, and now they're being let down again. And I can see how a lot of people would change their minds now.
I mean, anybody that calls himself a socialist and believes in the European Union is not a socialist. the European Union, it does not. It's the interesting thing. If Jeremy Corbyn wants out the EU, he's just not brave enough to actually admit it. Because to actually control our own affairs, to control our own industries, you need out the European Union. And for the left of Labour to go so anti-Brexit is a betrayal of Tony Benn, Michael Foot, real socialists who actually believe in leaving.
What are you seeing in terms of backlash, or at least a reaction to Project Fear? Obviously, we've been told that people with diabetes won't have access to insulin, people with cancer are going to die in hospitals. What's the reaction been with the activists in Unity?
Well, we all agree it's a load of garbage, and we know that it's false because they made these predictions in 2015 and 16. They said there would be an emergency budget. They said that the country would collapse, and it's not happened. So why should we believe these people now?
You don't believe the scare tactics?
No, not at all.
No.
Say somehow they're right and there's a recession. I don't think there will be. Say there's a recession. You willing to take that?
Yes, I am definitely willing to take that. Yes, I am definitely willing to take that.
Yes, we might take a short-term hit economically, because I'm sure this thing that we're planning won't be seamless, but the alternative will be to remain tied to the sinking ship of the EU, and things are going to get a lot worse in the EU than they are now. Why should we be a part of that when we've got an opportunity to get away from it?
If there was a recession, would you be willing to take that because for the sake of Brexit?
I would take a few years of a few less pounds than a lot of years.
So as people are outside protesting, inside, Prime Minister's questions are going on. It's the first one since the summer recess, and a couple of interesting things have happened so far. So first of all, Theresa May has said that 6,400 civil servants are preparing or working to prepare for a no-deal Brexit, whatever that's going to mean. But also Andrea Jenkins, you've probably heard of, a Tory MP, she's just stood up in Parliament and said she's facing serious intimidation tactics from Labour Party activists. And of course Theresa May, all she can do is apologise that it's happening, but it's not her fault. Jeremy Corbyn's got a lot of things to answer for with this. They're becoming more and more extreme. The anti-Semitism issue in the Labour Party, which I've seen brushed off by some activists as a minor issue. Compounded with the fact that Labour activists are becoming more and more militant, more and more angry, more and more violent in many cases. There's a serious problem going on. It's affecting politicians trying to do their job. What do you feel about the Labour Party with its increasing extremism?
Well, I've been a Labour voter all my life, up until Corbyn took charge, and I would never, ever vote for that man. I think he's a danger to our country. There
is such a disconnect between those in power and people like us, and I've never known it so big in my life. And to just that the whole institution of Westminster is corrupt. Yeah. Not necessarily corrupt from a financial perspective, but from a moral and an ethical perspective. Yeah. And it just needs to change. The whole culture of politics in this country needs to change. I think a lot of Labour people would be really turning in their graves if they saw what had happened to the Labour Party. They don't put working people first now. And I think their behaviour and the way they condemn people as racists if they're worried about immigration, we've had enough of them. It's nonsense.
She's meant to be making a mystery announcement today, probably about now at PMQs. What do you reckon it might be?
I would hope that her mystery announcement would be that she's stepping down and that she wants to open a general election, and hopefully we can get a patriot in power.
Think she will?
No, she'll probably give something stupid, like, tax breaks or whatever for the rich or whatever. I don't know. I don't keep up with BBC Parliament. I watch your channel, not their channel.
Would you like her to resign?
Yes, absolutely. She's not fit for purpose anymore.
Who would you like as leader?
Jacob Rees-Mogg, in all truthfulness.
I would go David Davis personally.
What do you think the behaviour's been like of the left? Commendable, respectable, or otherwise?
Well, it's interesting. The whole sort of left-right paradigm I don't think maybe exists as much now. Dare I say it on some things. I even class myself as a left-winger, but these people, the sort of extremists, the Antifa-type people, their behaviour is really disgraceful. Your Owen Jones. What I hope today results in is that we can put people on the streets, that we can be a voice for people to come out and just say their piece. And social media is so important now. It's in many ways that's the modern battleground. Facebook, Twitter. And it's about having conversations with friends and family about what's going on. One of the big problems is apathy in this country, lack of political engagement, especially from people that I would term as more populist, on the sort of hard left anarchist side. These people are highly engaged, but people that are pro-British, we tend to be a lot more quiet about it.
Imagine loving the EU this much.
We want a new Maryland, a new Maryland. He can't deal with crime, he's hiding outside. decided time, it's time for you to go.
I think your t-shirt sums it up quite well, doesn't it? Brexit means Brexit, out now. Cheers. Well, there we have it. Interesting little cross-section of society there that kind of confirmed a few things for me. Things we pretty much already knew is when people voted to leave the European Union, it wasn't just about the EU. That's a big part of it, obviously, but it was a rejection of politics, a rejection of the status quo, and a rejection of these people in here that consistently ignore the will of the British people. And funnily enough, they did it again when they voted to leave the European Union. As we've been protesting outside today, PMQs, the first one since summer, has been going on, and there was a big statement expected from Theresa May. It turns out it was about Novichok, confirming that actually the people involved were allegedly involved with the Russian government. I guess we can follow that story, but nothing about Brexit. Interesting. It looks like the October deadline isn't going to be met, so there may well be an emergency summit in November. So really, I think there's a lot to be angry about, and I see exactly why people are out here protesting. I'm Jack Buckby for the Rebel.media.
If you want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, remember to like and subscribe.